Okay, can everyone hear me now? Because we are live. Let's see. All right. It looks like everything's working. So welcome back, everyone. Today we're hosting the second and last event of the mobile app design and implementation series. And as you know, we've organized these events in collaboration with Tutored, which is a local startup and that recently became our first ever partner. So during the event, if you attended it, we were introduced to UI UX concepts and best practices, and we learned how to create wireframes and mockups using Figma, among a bunch of other stuff, but those were the core things, right? And today we have a truly exciting event because we are going to transition from design into implementation using Flutter. And to do that, we have here with us Lorenzo Romagnoni and Davide Campagnola. Both of them work at Tutored, and they are today presenters. So last but not least, at the end of the event, we will announce the winners of the design contest, and Davide and Lorenzo will show us how to implement the best design. So I just wanted to thank all the students who took the time to participate in the contest and submitted their projects. It wasn't easy at all to pick the winners, so congratulations, because once again, all of you exceeded our expectations. So after this brief introduction, I'm going to lay it today's presenters to take it from here. Hopefully everyone will enjoy it. All right, guys, you're up.
All right, thank you, Alejandro. I'm Davide Campagnola. I'm from Tutored. I am full stack developer in Tutored, and I'm going to present you Lorenzo Romagnoni, that he is going to introduce you the first fundamental of Flutter in this course. So
hi everyone, I'm Lorenzo Romagnoni. I am a web and mobile developer at Tutored, and I'm also a student of computer engineering of the third year at PoliMi. Today, we are gonna illustrate you the process of how to go from the design of an app through the real implementation in the most efficient way. We will cover Flutter, as Alejandro has already said, but don't worry if you are not an expert of it, because we have structured the presentation in a way that it will be possible for anyone to catch up on what we will be doing. So let's start with the presentation. I will share my screen. So please, Davide, tell me if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Or anyone in the chat. Okay, perfect. So okay. Wait a second. The presentation. Okay, I lost the presentation. I will open it on a new page. These are the live problems before.
There are always some live problems here.
Hopefully.
I'm thrilled about seeing the full presentation and the winners.
It's you know, like doing all this stuff online is never easy, and coordinating all these things from not actually, you know, from home, but like from so many different homes is not that easy.
Okay.
All right.
It's working perfect. So here is the schedule of what we are going to do. First, I will make you a brief introduction on how to structure a process of development for implementing an app. Then I will show you an hypothetical workflow to apply all this theory in an example workflow we are going to show you using the recipe app that we have got from the design of the last event. And during that, we'll also show you some code, of course, and we'll use Flutter as a framework, and we will guide you through all the structuring process of this app. Finally, Davide will announce the winners and will implement live the design that has won the challenge.
Yes.
Just before I go through the next steps of the presentation, I want to make a question. We've got the design, so we got the idea of an app. Through the design process, we came up with a Figma template of the app with all the different steps. I want to know, what would you do in this situation? How would you proceed to go to the design, from the design to the implementation of the app? Please write in the chat. If you already done this, just write your experience, or if this is something completely new, please write what will you think you will do in this situation. In this way, we can check whether what are we going to do is completely new to you, or some people have already experience in this.
I've seen Butterbean that he is saying that he doesn't know Flutter. That's not a problem. The question is about what to do generally from the design to implementation, what we are going to do.
Okay, Nicola says document specification. Okay.
Yeah, that's a little
that could be on
corporate.
the right path.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
Anyway, yeah, there are not the correct answers, of course, because it depends very much on the type of project you are working on. Okay, so one thing that a lot of people do when they start a project, especially from a technical point of view, yeah, Pier Giorgio is what we are going to say. You're right. Most of the people just go straight to the code, which of course is fun, especially for a developer who is passionate about it, and so is waiting to write anything that comes to his mind. But let's say that if you want to save your project from the doom of being abandoned in 2 or 3 days, that's not the way to proceed. Because if you want to have bigger and more structured application or programs, you have to think before a lot of different steps in order to have it to have a process which is efficient. So code blindly could be an approach which is good if you got a small project or a thing that you can go really fast. But on the long run, a more thought process will be always a good option. Let's say, for example, that you build a web app, okay? So a website. And you work, let's say, 2 months on it. And then at the end, you realize that for some business requirements, you have to handle 1,000 requests per second. But the framework on that which built all the program only can handle 500 requests. In this case, if you're lucky, a big part of your work will be useless. But probably all of your 2-month work will be useless because you cannot use anymore to match the business requirements. This is an example of how thinking before starting coding can help you prevent these performance issues. Another example could be schedule requirement. So let's say that in a week, you have to present to some investors your startup, and you want to show a prototype of your application, which is both for Android and iOS. So you have got only 1 week, it's a little time, and you start coding every night and day of the week, only to just arrive at the end of the week without a finished app, because you have built a Java Android app and a Swift iOS app, which are two completely different technologies, and of course, they require time to learn and to implement them. If you just have think a little bit more before and looked for all your options of technology, of frameworks, you could have come up with Flutter, which is a perfect choice for this case because it enables you to implement the app from Android and iOS using only one single code base. So in this case, you would have done the project in half of the time, maybe.
Yeah.
Of course, another very important point to have a more organized process is team development. Often when you work in project, you will have a team of people working on it. You will not be alone. And so it is essential that every member of the team know how is going to proceed in his work, how are all the modules going to interact between them, and it's important to have a communication between all of the department in a professional environment, for example, but not necessary. We've got the UI and UX department, which, as we have seen in the last event, go through a complex process of designing all the possible behaviors a user will have on your app, and then they're gonna choose where to place button, for example. And you, as a developer, just cannot say, oh, okay, I've got this button in this position, but it is easier to implement it in this other position. You cannot just move the button on the other side. So there has to be a communication, a feedback between all the departments. How are we gonna respect all of these constraints? Today, we are showing you an hypothetical process which enables you to fix all these issues. We will go through it step by step using the recipe app we've got from the design. And then, as I already mentioned, we will go also from the all different prototypes from a code point of view. So in this process, the first step is the project analysis. And we will do it starting on Figma. So I've got it open here. As you can see, this is the design we got from the design department. And the first thing we can check is how our app will look to the user, to the final client. Here, briefly, we can see that we got a home screen, a search bar, and then a detail page, which probably will be opened by clicking on this tile. But in this case, mine is only an hypothesis because here we do not have any prototype implementation. So we can think that maybe it's that, but in a real environment, of course, you will ask to be sure that your idea is correct. The next step of the analysis is the functionality analysis. So we want to check how our app will work in a very detailed way, because all these functionalities will be listed and we'll have to implement them in the future. So as a developer, it's very important to know everything that our app will have to do. For example, as I said, if your app has to handle 1,000 requests per second, it's very important to know it before just start coding. So let's analyze this app. From a functionality point of view, we can say that again, the first screen is the home screen. then we'll probably have some other screen which will be possible to arrive from this button, see more, and a particular thing we can analyze here is the search. So how the functionality of the search will have to be implemented. Here we can see that the search is by a substring of the name. This is very important because you cannot just say, okay, we have to got the search of the recipes, so let's search by name. No, you have to know perfectly how the search will work. So this is not, for example, a search with the first letter of the name, because that's not how it's working. Here is a substring of the name. And so you will have to do this kind of analysis for every page of your app. Here, of course, we've got a simple design to do it 1.5 hours. So that's practically everything we have. Next, we've got the, okay. We've got a problem with Keynote.
Number 2.
Which today doesn't want to go very well. Next, I will say anyway. Next, we've got the component analysis. The component analysis is a phase where you from the design, you destructure the layout in more simpler components. In this way, the process of coding will be more easier because you've got an abstraction of what you are going to implement. I will show you, for example, on the Google page. Okay, so how will they do this analysis on this page? I can see an header on the top of the page with some links on the right. Then we've got an image, a search bar, and then we've got a grid of favorite website. So mainly we've got these 4 components: header, image, search bar, and grid view. Now, I will ask you, I will go through the slide in this way, so they won't be making any jokes in the futures.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you now, how will you do it for the design we have of the recipe app? Just to know how is your vision on this design, because of course anyone can have different kind of detail in the analysis, but again, there are not correct answers or wrong answers. Is only a way to analyze and abstracting the design. So please write in the chat which are the main components you see in this screen. And then we will check if they match with what we found.
Yeah,
sometimes I see in that direction because I've got another screen with the chat.
Yeah, to help some people in the chat, I just say something. There are something that repeats in the design, so it is something that can be called as a component. And so I'm seeing some answers.
Vlad, search bar, title, and grid. Yeah, that could be an idea. The title, the categories. Yep. Simple text, clickable buttons. Let's scroll down, but also sideways. So perfect. We've got pretty much the same answers. Perfect. That means that we have been pretty clear. So here is an example of how me and Davide have divided this screen. But of course, again, it depends on the complexity of your project. If you're doing an enormous business complex project, you will have to do a more detailed analysis. In this case, we just came up with these different components, which is the search bar, the title, a stream component, which includes these tile components, which are then represented in the design by the mills or types. That's the same. And okay, so this can be a possible division in components of our design. Now, let's see how are the next steps for the process. After we have gathered all the data from this analysis, we make the technology choice. As we have seen in the introduction, it's important to gather this detail before you choose how you will be implementing from a technological point of view your project. In this case, we choose Flutter because we haven't any specification on the operating system of the app. So we do not have a specific Android app or a iOS app. So Flutter is a cross-platform framework, which is pretty good. And then another requirement we have for this project is that the code will have to be as clear as possible, because we will have to show you the code that we have written. And Flutter, also for this reason, is an amazing choice because it enables to write very clean code and very readable code, even for the people that do not understand it or do not even code. So let's check all these theory and analysis on some real prototypes we have made for this event. The first prototype will be the layout one. So I've got it running here. Let me close this one. Okay. This is a prototype of our app. What can we see? We got, we can say, the division in components that we have done before. Here we've got the list of streams, which is scrollable. And then inside each stream, we've got another list, which is horizontally scrollable, in which we will put all the types. Just before going to the code of this, I want you to check this code map, because I think it can be pretty useful. So this represents the code structure. It is the same as we will see in code. So pay attention, because if you understand this, going through code will be completely easy. We start from a main component, which is the one which starts our app. The main component calls a theme object. In the theme, we put all the design specifics that we have. For example, the colors, the textiles, and every kind of stylish thing. Then from the main, we call the home screen, which is the screen that you can see here. All of this page is the home screen. In the home screen, we have got the home title, then a stream list made of stream containers. Each stream container is this red rectangle, and then inside of it, we've got a title and a list of mill tile, which are the pinky squares. Okay, so I think we are ready to jump in the real code. As you can see, I'm running this code. Davide?
Sorry, I was reading in the chat that
Yeah.
we were discussing about the thing of automatic brightness of the app. I mean, like dark mode or light mode. I want to say something about this. In Flutter, we got it. We got a feature that makes that without adding any hard code or something that is not really really good to write. So sorry. Okay, go on.
No. Okay, I understand what you want to say. Is that in Flutter we have got very much support for all the theming of your apps, because you are able to change practically everything of the UI of the colors, only changing very little code. Like 1 or 2 lines can completely change your app, of course, if you structure your code in a way that makes it possible. For example, I can cite you one property of some object in Flutter, which is brightness. And that property enables you to change from light mode to dark mode. So if you define a color palette for light mode and a color palette for dark mode, then you just have to change the line of code and all the app changes. Now, in this example, we can see something on that better. This is the main file. So as you can see, the folder structure is the standard for every Flutter project. All the code will be inside this lib folder. And then here we added these 3 folders. A screen folder, which contains all the high-level logic of each screen. In this case, we only have the home screen, so there is only one file. The theme folder, which contains the theme data of the app. And then a widgets folder, which contains all the different custom widgets we have to build for this app. And then we've got the main file, which is the starter one. Here we got the function that calls the Mills app widget. Inside this widget, we've got 2 properties, or better. We call on the build method a material app widget, which is a widget that enable you to inject in your app different properties, such as the theme property. Let's see how this theme works. So for the theme, we have made this class that have got this function, that is the one called here. This function, what does? It just returns a theme.object. Inside this theme.object, we've got different properties that we can customize as we want. In this case, we put the font family property, the color scheme property, and the text theme property. So we map these values from what we've got from the design. For example, these colors are the colors that we have here in the color palette in the design. These colors here. And me, as a developer, how can I catch these colors? I just double click on the palette, take the value of the colors, then go to the code, and then I can just paste it here on the code. In Dart, which is the language, the programming language used for Flutter, this is Dart code. We've got this class called color, which is very useful because we can use it to build our colors, just specifying their hexadecimal values. For example, all these one are alpha RGB values. What does it mean? It's not a mysterious thing. The alpha values is a value that represents the transparency of the color, or the opacity, as you want to call it. And then we've got the classical red, green, blue value of the color. And so we can have some constants in our class which maps the colors of the design. These colors then can be used inside this color scheme object, and these properties, so primary variant, secondary, etc., can be accessed from anywhere from our app. So when we have to use some colors, we can refer to these values in this way. If, for example, I change, let's try with this prototype. Here I'm using I think it's the active color. Okay, I think it's that one. If I change it, for example, to something random, because I don't know what's gonna. Okay, well, that's not a very good color, but.
Sorry, Lorenzo, there is a
Yep.
question for you
Okay.
from Nicola. It says, can you explain the difference between material color and colors?
Excuse me, where is the question?
In the Q&A section.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Can you explain the
We'll
difference
answer
between
live.
material colors and colors? Okay, so in Flutter, you can have, I think that's what you're asking. Say if I'm wrong. Material colors are objects that contains some details about the color. For example, if you use a material color scheme in your app, automatically you will have the primary accent color, background color, all set. You have to just specify the tone of the color scheme. Instead, the color object, let's say that it's a low-level class that it is used in the material color. So there is this different level of abstraction between the two classes. You can use material color. They are easier to implement and faster. But if you want to have a more personalized color palette, for example, you have to manage it in a more, let's say, manual, hard code way.
Yeah, there was another question, I think, from the previous slide. Mm-hmm. So the main idea is to make everything modular in a way that you can add, update, delete sections without any waste of time, right?
Yeah, precisely. Exactly what I meant to do, what I meant to say. Having your project structured modularly, you can do exactly that. For example, here I'm changing the color of the active, I'm changing the active color, which is mapped in the primary color scheme, and then automatically everything that in my app use that primary color gets updated with the new color. So I have not to go through all files in my project to change the colors, because if I refer only to this class, I can change it here and it will change it everywhere. Now let's bring back the color of before, which is more happy. Next. Okay, so this is the main purpose of the color scheme. Then we will see how in the code I refer to this. Then we've got the text theme, and inside this object, we've got all the different styles, and also these styles are those who comes from the design. So I can check on Figma which are the different typography styles, and then write it here in Flutter. We use this text style object, which is a very useful object in which you can pass the font size, color. Then if you overlay on this, you can see all the different properties which are tons of properties you can use to customize your typography of your app. I hope that is clear for the team. Then let's go inside the app. So we've got the home screen, which is a container of the background color. So here, as you can see, with this syntax, we can refer to the colors we've got in the theme. The syntax is simply theme of context. And then, as in any object-oriented language, we access the property of the theme. So color scheme and background color. Then we've got a safe area child, which is used to render objects only inside a safe area. What does it mean? I'll show you in a second, removing this widget. So I remove this widget, I save the project, and then, as you can see now, what does it happen? It happened that the status bar, it's not, let's say, managed, because our layout go over the status bar, and this is usually a thing you do not want in your app, because if some text overlay some other text, that's not a very good effect. Placing all of your inner widgets inside a safe area widget, simply do this. As you can see now, my layout is not rendering over the status bar.
Yeah, that's something that in the new devices like iPhone X or something like this is very important, because we will see like the menu button in the bottom area. So with safe area, we just we can render everything in the safe area, where there is no the status bar or everything.
Yeah, in this way we can prevent having particular screen feature problems.
Yeah, but Butterbean was noting a really good feature of Flutter, which is that you can code, and instantaneously it changes the code without recompiling, annoying time.
As Andrea is saying, that's the hot reload feature of Flutter, which is an amazing feature, because I will not go in depth with that because we haven't got time, but in short, you can make your changes in the app and then see them without rebuilding all of your projects, which is a very cool feature, because you have to wait something about 1 or 2 minutes if you compile every time your app. Going next with the widgets, inside the safe area, we've got a column which is scrollable. This widget, the single child scroll view, enables its inner child to be scrollable. And so making a column scrollable, we can do this kind of effect, as you can see. Inside that column, we've got the home title and the stream list. The home title will be simply this title here. Let's check it out. As you can see, inside it, we've got a padding, which is the space outside the inner widget, and then a text. So it represents this title here. And as you can see, here we refer to the theme styles. Okay, so here we are using the text theme.headline4 style. If we go to the theme of our app, we can see that in text theme headline 4, we've got this text style, which is font size 36, color text main, and font weight W700. This is a way of representing the thickness of the font. The higher this number, the more thick the font will be. So 700 is like bold. so to make it more understandable. So let's call the home title. In the home screen, okay. Under the home title, we've got the stream list. If you go inside the stream list, we've got a column which is also scrollable thanks to the widget we put in a higher level, which enables to be scrollable its contents. And inside this column, we've got these stream containers. Each stream containers is another column of a title and a list. As you can see, dividing your app in different components is a very useful exercise you can do, because you will have to do it very often in pretty every development process, especially if you're using Flutter. If you're using Flutter, this widget structure is fundamental, and so you will have to divide each component in inner widget and so on. Here again, we are using the color from the theme, and then we got the title, which is the same as the home title. I can check it out. As you can see, we've got the padding, the title with the style from the theme, and that the main list, which is a scrollable row of meal tiles. And each meal tile is simply a container with a fixed width and height, and with the color from the theme. So that's all for the code for this prototype. I want to say some more things before passing the mic to Davide. Why do we do these prototypes? And why do we have to implement an app that looks like this? Well, the reason is simple. Dividing the implementation process in multiple steps can help you have a better way, have a better idea on how you are progressing in the project. So, if you have different steps, you can say, okay, now I have built the layout implementation. I know that I am on a third of the project. Another reason could be that in this way, you can show your app to other people. So if you're working on a project and there are people who are making some reports or a more business-related analysis, you can say them, here, watch how are we going to do the app. Watch how is the progress of the app. If you do this, and so you only wait to show your app when it will be completely finished, probably you will have to wait a lot of time, and so other people will get nervous saying, but the app is here, are you doing that? In this way, you prevent this problem showing the progress of your implementation through different prototypes. One last thing about the code. The code we are showing you today is a code that has as a main focus simplicity. So it's not a code with focus on performance, because this code can be improved in very different ways to be more faster, but that would have increased its complexity. And we wanted to make the code as clear as possible for today. So that's why if there is someone which is an expert of Flutter, that's why we are doing the things we've done today.
So there is a question from Michele. He's asking, so this type of architecture is to be applied also, for example, using Android Studio, or is it different in some way?
No, you can. Can I answer to that question, Davide, or you want?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
So it's independent from the editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code because it's an editor that I like, but for example, Davide uses Android Studio.
Yeah,
so
you will see.
You can implement your Flutter app in a lot of different IDEs. I think now they are supporting it. I'm not saying everyone, but all the biggest IDEs are supporting this technology because it's getting very much popular in the last years. And so you can do it without problems in Android Studio. So that's all for the first prototype. Davide, if you want to continue with the mock part of the app.
I'm going to share screen.
Yeah, I will stop mine. No, not stop mine.
If I can. I don't know.
Okay, stop sharing. Perfect.
Okay.
In the meantime, I will check if there are some questions or... Okay, Pier Giorgio says that also Vim supports it. That's
I didn't
amazing.
know that. That's cool. Wow. I like it. So, okay. The version of this app is not really complete. It needs something else. It needs data and design. We have seen the design, but we didn't yet implement it. So we have to implement it. How? First, by using a structured way, we first implement the components with colored squares. And now we are using a mock version. What is mock? Mock is fake data because we don't want for now rely on external source like APIs. So we want first to test our app and to see if our app is working alone. So for now, we have to mock it. First, I'm going to show you the code structure. First, I want to ask you, what is changing from the previous code structure? If you can answer. What does change from the previous code structure? We can see that there is a square, a new square, and new arrows. So let's see.
Maybe it's a good idea if you can make it back. Yeah, Luca has already saying. Yeah.
All right, Luca got it.
They are on
got it. All right. What is that new square? This new square is a service, is what gives us data to pass it, as you can see the yellow line, to pass it to the other components. So that's how we're going to implement the new version of the app. As you can see, this is the new version, and this is the mocked version. We are using fake data. As you can see, the categories are always the same, and the tiles are always the same. So I'm first going to show you how to implement a service. A service is just a class that has static methods in which we retrieve data. No matter where that data comes from. It can comes from an API or just mocked data, so fake data. And in this method, we just generate that it is a method of the list class of Dart that generates 10 items, as you can see there. That is a mock of category meals. What is category meals? Category meals is the class that we are going to use to represent the category. This category has an ID, an identification to reference to the category later, a title, as you can see there, it is the title, and then a list of meals. List of meals, which are a list of class meal. A meal is an object that has an ID, a title, and an img URL, which is, as you can see, that pasta. What does it mean to implement a mock version? As you can see, I put fake data. We are using in this version the factory, which is the a method, a stack date method that generates an instance of this class in which you can put the data that you want, and it returns. So we put fake data, so an ID, random ID, a title, spaghetti carbonara, and the img URL. As you can see, if I change the title, I don't know, your favorite plate, Lorenzo. What is your favorite plate?
Let's say pizza.
Pizza.
Let's go easy.
Pizza. All right. Flutter is reloading. All right. And we changed the data in all the application. So the mock version of the category meals, which is the categories that contains a list of meals, has a random ID, a category title, which I can change. I don't know, pastas. And it does change. And a list of meals. I decided to generate 10 meals. So in the service, we just generate 10 of this category. As you can see, I generated 10 of these categories. But first, we have to implement the UI. We have to pass it around all the components of our app. First, we are going to the home screen. As you have seen before, it is as before. So we're going to streams list. Okay, duplicated the code. So we're getting the data that we are going to put in the UI. And this is a list of a category. As you can see, I just return the list of category meals. And I assign to a static variable that in Dart is called final. In the build method, which is the method that Flutter calls wherever he wants to render something, I put a column in which the children is a list of the container, the stream container. How do I build it? I build it by iterating every category. And for each category, I just return a stream container. That's how map works. It is a list, so I can call map, and he asks me for an anonymous function in which I will return a component. And this component, all of these components are going to a column, which is this layout. So every category is a stream container now, because we pass a category name, which is the category title, and a list of meals, which, as you can see, we just refer from the object of the category meal. So let's go in the stream container. This is the stream container. We got from the previous component the category name, as you have seen before, and the list of meals. This will be useful to render all of that list. For example, the category name is just a string title. As you have seen before, it is a text which has the title pastas. The string container has also the meals list, which we pass the meal list, and which is just a row with a scroll view, as you have seen before. But right now, instead of inserting some weird and not so useful square, we put the meal tile using, as before, as the category meals, using the map function of the array. In this way, we map the meals by returning a list of meal tile, which is this component, as you can see, where there is the images, the image and the title, and this is the component. Yeah, where it's not beautiful, but by developing in Flutter, it's simple, and Flutter helps you by putting these comments. I didn't put it, so it is useful to know what is that that parenthesis that you are closing. For example, here, box decoration, I know that it is parenthesis. So it is a container with a fixed width and height, with a decoration, which is a class that you have that you use to make it round, as you can see, with border radius. And then we put in the container a gesture detector, which is a component of Flutter that enables us to listen to tap. As you can see, by tapping this component, I go to a blank page. Blank page because it is not yet implemented, because it will be the winner design. And so wherever I tap to this card, and I'm going to push a new page that will be the meal details screen. That is another widget that we will see later.
So Davide,
so
wait a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. We've got one answer, one question, which is a bit old, actually.
I have one. Yes.
And that Kevin Barone, please don't hate me if I pronounced it wrong, asks, what does the ID do? Probably from the mapping function of before. And then
no, I think in
the mock, yeah,
in the class, I think.
And then after you answer to this question, I have to remind you the time because we are running out of time. So
sorry, time. Okay. The idea is very important because when we want to reference the meal, we don't pass the title to the API. We have to pass some identification. I don't know if you have somehow, I don't know, do a database course. ID is very important because you can keep track of this object in the application. So that's how that's why the ID is here and in the category here. So I continue very fast. I will show you. All right. So this is the card. this is the card in which we got a stack. A stack is a component in which you can layer multiple components. This stack has the feeding image. The feeding image is the component that holds the image, and to make it, that image is coming from the network. So the loading is not instantaneous. So we need first to use a placeholder that comes from the file system. And so next in the stack, we got the padding, which adds some space in the components, and then a text with the mill tile. So that's how the version of the mock application works. If you have any question, feel free to ask. I'm going to answer it in a second. So let's go to the final version of the app. Why? Because we need real data. We need the data from the API. Right now, we can choose where the data are coming from. We have just designed all the app. It's all done. We need just the link between the data source and the application. Sorry, I was watching. Okay. So the code is building right now. So we're getting data from the web. So the code structure is now different, because instead of getting a mocked version, we get the data from MillsDB. MillsDB is a service, is a free service that you can reference to whenever you want. Okay, which exposes many endpoints. I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, these are the endpoints that MillsDB exposed to us, and the endpoints that we need is list of all mill categories, which is the list of all the categories that we are going to show, which has an object called categories that has an array of categories, which every object in that array has the ID, the string category, which is the name of the category, a category thumb, which is an image of the category, which is beautiful. So another API that we need from this service is filter by category, in which once has parameter the name of the category that we will retrieve from that API, and it returns a list of mills, which is the ID of the mill that will be useful to make the detail page. The string mill, which is the name of the mill, and the string mill thumb, which is the image of the mill. Yeah, delicious. So, okay, Flutter has started. So I implemented the service. The method is the same, but that's why we made the mocked version, because we return the same data, but we don't mind about where does that data come from. So I fetch first the category data, in which I use the library HTTP, and it uses the endpoint that you have seen before. It is base URL is the base URL of this API that you can see from that page. This is the base URL, and then I put categories to retrieve all the meal categories, in which once we get the response, we parse it. We parse it to then, because it is a JSON, that in Dart will be a map of string and string, and we will pass it in build category meals, which is the method that pairs all the data that we get from the API, and it builds all the classes that you have seen before. For each category data, we for each category data, we call the API that we have seen before, filter by category, in which once the request is fulfilled, we construct the instance of category meals by putting the name and then the image URL, and then we construct the meals of the categories by always mapping mapping the array, and then returning for each meal the real class of the meal. We got the ID, the title, and the img URL. So now in the home screen, as you can see, before we called the meal service get home meals, and we assign it to a final variable. That's not what we are going to do now, because this request is a feature, which is a request that takes time. And meanwhile, the request is being fulfilled, we do something else. For example, as you can see, when I am reloading the app, I show a loading progress indicator that says to the user, wait, the data is coming. So we build it by putting a feature builder that wants a feature that is the method in where we get the data, and the builder is a function that is called wherever something happened to that request. For example, when it is just started, or when it is fulfilled. So we have the data. When it is not fulfilled, snapshot.hasData is false. So we render the circular progress indicator. When it is true, we have the data. So we pass the data to the stream container as before. Before, we have just, we haven't the feature, and now we have the feature. That's the main difference. Do you have any question? All right, so now I'm going to announce the winner of the design, and I'm going to, I see a question. Luca Ruperto, how can we make a feature rendering faster? In a normal application, the data loading isn't this slow. So so we can implement something like caching the data. No, it's not a critical. All right, I get it. Probably this service is not fast, but usually apps like Instagram, the second time that you load an application, it reloads a cache of the previous request. So you will see the previous version of, for example, the stream of the post, and the previous version of the stream of the post, and meanwhile there is a request going on. Okay, so anyway, that service doesn't have hundreds of servers, so it's good that it loads not so fast. So I'm going to announce the winner of the design challenge. The third place is Underground. I'm going to show you the design. All right. This is the design of the detail page. I'm going to show you in full screen mode. Yeah, it is really nice. I really like it. I really like it. That's some serious design here. So the second place is Sleepy Unicorns that I'm going to show you. All right. That it uses like something like, I think, from Instagram. It is quite interesting. I like it. And Brojo, the first place. And it is this design. All right. This is the design that we are going to implement. As you can see, we got wow. Okay. We got various components. We have the image, the title, the ingredients list, and then the instructions. This section, we're not going to implement it because we don't have so much time. So let's go with the implementation. So this is the final version. No? Oh, wow. Okay. Wrong. Wrong. All right. Okay. Okay. So let's go. So once we clicked on one recipe, okay, this is a blank page. It is not a recipe, so we have to implement it. So okay, let's go to the meal list, the meal tile. In the gesture detector, we listen for the tab, and we go on the meal details screen in which we pass the meal. Okay, so first, this is the page. Okay, I will remove everything. Okay, I first implement a scaffold. Right. It's going slow because it is compiling. I think we are up to go. Okay, so first put a scaffold to see if the code is working. All right, so it is a more blank page. So first we have to implement the service. This is how we get the data from the API. Okay, first I'm going to replicate the method fetch categories data, and I'm going to call it fetch detail meal, and I'm going to pass a string ID because, as you have seen before, it is what we need from to refer to a meal, and I'm going to return a feature of meal. Why a feature? Because it is an asynchronous function. Next, I'm going to take the endpoint, which is this. Then I'm going to put in the as a parameter the ID. Okay. You can. Okay, remove this. This object returns meals, an array of meals, and these meals has one object. So this API isn't really a good practice API because, as you can see, we have a list of meal when we refer to identification that it is unique. So why an array? And we got this. This is something horrendous because we don't have an array of ingredients and its measure, but we got multiple multiple parameter or attributes of ingredients that it is indexed somehow. I don't know why, but we are going to parse it and make it easier to us by putting an array of ingredients. So we got the meal. So first we have to implement first the model of the ingredient because we don't have it yet. Ingredient. Okay. So that's a class ingredient that has a name, that is string name and string measure. All right. We're going now to make the constructor in and this dot measure. It assign if I pass name and measure, it assign automatically the name and the measure. So in the meal, we are going to have a list of ingredients because every meal has ingredients. Okay, all right. And I'm going to pass these ingredients to the constructor. And then we have, as you can see from the design, we want to have a instruction that we have from the API as string instructions, but I'm going to call it in our class string instructions. All right. Okay, so that must be a constant. All right, you're good now. So in the constructor, these instructions will be a string, empty string by default. So, all right, let's go to the service and we implement the link between the API and the service and our application. So we got the meal and we return a meal class which has the ID, which is ID meal, meal, ID meal. All right. Then the title, which is meal, and string meal, as you can see there. Next, the instructions, which is string instruction from the API, meal, string instructions. And next, we got the image URL, which is in the API, the string meal thumb, as you have seen before. Okay, and then we got the difficult part that I skipped. So the ingredients, we have to make an array. in the we will build it in another static method. I'm going to call static list of ingredients because that's what we want. I'm going to call it build ingredients from JSON, which wants a dynamic meal, and it makes something horrendous. So because I want to iterate that index from 1 to 20 and to assign it to an array. So it's final static, no, final ingredients, which first is an empty array, and then I iterate every from 0, from 1 to 20, so 20, iterate, and I ask if this ingredient is not empty or null, because this is a bad practice, because I remember we don't want these attributes, but I want an array of ingredients. So I first want to say parameter ingredient, which will be the string ingredient plus the index that we are in. Next, for every ingredient, we have the measure, which is parameter measure, and it is string measure and the index that we are in. And we ask if in the meal, in the parameter ingredients exist, so it is not null, and a meal parameter ingredient is not an empty string. If so, all right. If so, I'm going to add to the array ingredient, in which I will pass the name that is meal parameter ingredient, and the measure, which is meal parameter measure. All right. And now I return the array. So if I make any errors, please make some couple coding. All right, we're going to return this list of ingredients, and I'm going to pass it in the meal class, and it wants a meal column. All right, there we go. So we got a feature meal. So we go on the meal detail, which is the page that we are going to build right now. So this is a scaffold. From the design, I have seen that sorry, it's lagging a bit. All right. So I have seen in the design that the background is white, so I don't want to change it. The app bar, sorry, wants a body, which is the contents of the scaffold, which wants which I will put a nested scroll view, which is a scroll view inside another scroll view, because I want that to be scrollable and to be nice and easy to scroll. Okay, So as header, I put it wants a anonymous function that will be called when we are scrolling, but the app bar will be static, so I don't mind about this parameter. And we are going to implement the app bar, which is a sliver app bar, which is a Flutter component that is the app bar that has a background color, which is you will not see, but it is the primary color. So it is of context. This is the way that Lorenzo show us before to access to the theme, color scheme, and then primary. We need that app bar to be pinned. So in this way, we make the app bar scrollable but fixed. I need to say expanded weight 300. Why? Because that's the height that the app bar has when it is expanded, full expanded. And that component, how do I render it? I render it by putting a stack component, as you have seen before, because as you can see, this is an amount of components there that are stacked, because we can see that this is an image, this is a text, that it is layered in the component. So okay, this can be achieved with flexible space. Will be a flexible space bar. And we need a title that will be the text and the meal title. Okay, I have to define here main, the meal, import it, title. Okay, and I'm going to assign it a style of subtitle 1. Style theme of context, text theme, subtitle 1, which is okay. It is not working. Why? Because we don't have a body. Because in the nested scroll view, it is mandatory to have a body. The body is what we can see there. It is the ingredients, the instructions, and this component that we are not going to do. So this is the body. I'm going to put a container. So you can see that something is going on right now. So this is the flexible spacebar. So the flexible spacebar wants a background that will be the image that we are going to put, and that image is not really only the image, because I want to put here a shadow, because in the design, as you can see, there is a shadow to make the text more cleaner and visible. And this is a container which has a color, has the color of the background that we have defined in the color scheme before, and a child in which we finally add a clip rect, which is a a component that wraps another component and enable us to make that border rounded. So border radius, vertical, because I want to define the bottom radius, and a radius circular of 35. All right, that's it. That's it. All right. Okay, so it works. It is going to do this thing when it is collapsed. So and now we got the child with the stack, and in the stack we got children. That first is the image. I'm going to show you right now, which has the as a placeholder a image from the file system, because we have to load it faster. This holder .png, and the image, which will be the image from network, from the mill, which will be network image mill.emg URL. So as you can see there, let's see if it is working. All right, it's working, kind of. All right, why? Because we have to crop it to the real to the width of the screen, so it is expand of stack fit. Okay, no, yes, because we have to fit the image, because it is covering all the spaces that is the component. So as you can see, we can see something of this design. So what we need right now, we need the shadow, because we want the text to show more clearly. It is a decoration box. That wants a decoration, that it is a box decoration, because we want a gradient that goes from black to transparent, as you can see. Gradient. Linear gradient, because it is from up to down, that it begins to alignment 0, 0, ends with an alignment. I'm going to explain now. 0.5, and the colors is an array that it is the first color and then the last color of the gradient. So color, I'm going to put a random color, which will be black, but not so black, and the transparent color. So, all right. So I've put this linear gradient that has an alignment of 0.5, because 0.5 is where the shadow must start, and when it ends is 0.0. So Are you there? I'm
Yes.
talking to
We are
someone.
here.
Okay, sorry for for quick explanation. So, but this code is not really good because it is all nested. So we need to create a widget. Android Studio gives us a really cool feature, which is refactor, which is extract Flutter method, in which if you go to refactor, then extract Flutter widget, and we call this widget up bar. It creates a widget called up bar, which is this, and it builds what we have built before. So here is the first implementation of this screen. So we need now to put the ingredients list, and the instructions. But this information are not coming from the transition between the tile and the class, because we have to call first the service to retrieve the meal data. So first, before having before rendering all, I wrap this widget to a feature builder, which, as you have seen before, it is a component that wants a feature that in this case is the meal service dot fetch detail meal, in which we will pass the meal ID. And as you have seen before, it wants a builder, that it is a function with the context and a snapshot, that if snapshot dot has data is true, we have the data. Okay, I'm going to delete this, and we return a container. And if we don't have data, we are rendering a loader, which is center circular progress indicator. All right, is it everything good? No. All right, wait a second. Seems to be good. What Dars says to us. Ooh. Okay. One more parenthesis. All right. Okay. Sorry for that. So as you can see, there is a loader that loads the request, and when it is fulfilled, this loader will be gone. So first, I want to check if there isn't any error. I have seen that there is something wrong. Good. I'm doing a quick debug. Okay, list dynamic is not yes. All right, because here I don't declare it as a list of ingredients. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so now we have to implement the instruction and the list of ingredients that we need for our meal. Okay, so first we can see from the design that we have some padding. This padding can be added by building an padding. Yes, all right. Second. All right, I'm going to add a padding of 16. Let's go with it. Symmetric, horizontal. Horizontal. This way I added a padding, but we can see nothing because right now there is nothing. So inside the padding, we got a single child scroll view, because as you have seen before, this section must scroll. So we need something that enable us to. Okay. It wants a child will be a column, which is the layout that wants a children. Now in this children we put all these components, which will be a text, as you can see. If it's working, yes, it is a text. So I'm going to put from the data that we got from the snapshot.data that has the type meal. We're going to put the no, sorry. As you can see from the design, we got ingredients. Ingredients, which will be a style, same as before, of context, text theme dot headline 4. Okay, which must to be not centered, as you can see from the design, but on the left. So in the column, we will do cross-axis alignment, which is the alignment of the cross axis of the column, which is the row. Want the start of it. All right. So as you can see, the padding is here. So everything is right. Then we put the ingredients. The ingredients, it is like a table of 2 columns and a multiple row. So in Flutter, how we do that? We do that by making a row that has a children, that has multiple column. That has 2 columns. Yeah. 1, 2. Right. I'm going to extract these to a Flutter widget, because it is quite confusing to have so much things nested. So I'm going to call it ingredient list. How did Flutter app development go? Right. Yeah. So this is the list. And I'm going to pass the meal. And in the constructor, it's going to be a final variable. We are going to assign in the constructor. So we have to create a list of 2 columns. I will show you something like the meal, the ingredients list of the meal. So I split the list into half. So in this way, I can make a first list and second list. All right, and every child of the children will be every child of the column component that we are going to render the ingredients. It is a text, so I'm going to use, as before, the map function, which has which has text, dot name, and then by parentheses dot measure. So make it a list. All right, and we don't need this array because it is an array. So I'm going to do the same thing with the children of the other column, but with the second list. I'm going to show you in a second once it doesn't. Okay, well, it was compiling really quick. So in this way, we make two columns that shared the same row. That's how can I say, a little hack, because we don't have so much time to show you a lot of things that Flutter has. Flutter has an enormous thing built in the framework. It is complete. You can build apps with it, and as Tutored, we built the app without not so much components. So I think that it is quite complete. So it is starting. There we go. That's our recipe list. That was our recipe list. What's happened? It crashed. One thing is that Flutter never crash. Not right now, but it is a good thing because it is fail safe. Because once you developed the app, users will never see your app crash. Probably with error, there is an error, because errors are always in the angle, but you will see something like you will never see crashes like this.
Like this. Okay, Davide, have you restarted your Mac before?
Yes.
No, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's...
We got it. Okay. Is it loading to you? All right. Okay. So we got this row that we have to make it thick, as people said before. This is size max. Okay. And we have to align the text on the left. So I'm doing this. Start, and in this, start. So I'm going to reload this. Wait a second. Okay, this quite working. Not yet, but it's working. Just a second. Then picking some helps from the code that I have written before. So, All right, this is the ingredients list. So we have to put first text with the section name, which is the instructions, that has the same style that had the other text of the other section. All right, this we put the text of the instruction of the muse, which has a style of, I don't know, we can choose from the texting wherever we want. For example, the body text 2. Let's see if we like. Yeah, we like it. All right. So what's next? It's really a quick development. We can do a lot of things to make it look nicer, because we don't have so much time. So we first, I don't know, we can make the title to look better.
Maybe Davide, I can pass you some classes for the button and the chips.
All right.
And you can just use them and explain maybe the code.
I have to open Figma because I have quit it. All right. Thank you, Figma. All right. So yeah, that's the button that my colleague is going to pass.
I've passed you on Slack.
All right. Let's go to Slack. Slack is a beautiful tool of developers that let us communicate. In this moment is really important because with coronavirus, we don't have a physical interaction, so it is really good Figma. Slack. Also Figma.
Okay, that's the chips component.
Yeah, what is this? This is this button, which it is called a chip, and it is the number of person, and we are going to use it on the right of the ingredients. And we can see that in this layout, in the column, we have the text, but we have to put the bottom on the right of the text. So we have to wrap it in a row that has a main size alignment, main axis alignment of space between, in which it will be there will be a space that makes the component of the ingredients on the left and the bottom on the right. And I'm going to add, after the text, the numbers chip. Okay. That doesn't want nothing. Okay, there we go. We got something. All right, so I want first to put this in headline 5. That's better. I think so. I want to first put some heading outside of it, which is going to be symmetric and vertical. So there will be a padding outside that column of 16. Do we like it? Yeah, we like it. So another thing that you passed me?
So I passed you the number chip, the ingredients tile. That's what the ingredients title.
Okay, it's done, I
what
think.
you've already done. And then let's check.
Yeah, the bottom of add to cart, which is that button that in material is called raised button because it has a background in it and it has an icon of a shopping cart and a text. So I think that something suggests to you that we need a row inside that button, which has the icon and the text. Yeah. As a component, yeah. All right. It is, as you can see, a raised button that has a border that it is circular, and as I said before, there is a row with a text and the icon. I didn't see it. I'm gonna add it. There is a lot of icons that that Material gives us, that Flutter gives us, and we have the shopping cart. So I'm going to add this widget after the ingredients list, as you can see from the design. That's it. So that's our meal, and I think that's it, or not?
Yeah, the things that remains are only tweaking of the fonts and the spaces.
Yeah,
so
there are a lot of things to tweak, like the title on there must be bigger, and the shadow, I think, if you correct me, it's not showing correctly, I think.
Yeah, try to add to the, let's see if I find the name of the class. So inside the app bar, inside the flexible space bar, add the collapse mode.
Oh, okay, I got it.
So we can see the corners right even when it collapses.
Okay. I think you mean this.
Yep.
Collapse mode. Yeah. Collapse mode is a property of flexible spacebar that lets you define the behavior of the spacebar when it scrolls up. So we want that rounded border to be always with us when we are scrolling. So I'm going to add collapse mode in. Now the scrolling is much better. The styling of
maybe
this,
we can change the style of the title.
Yeah, the style of the title. I can do a really nice feature of Flutter, which is copy with, that takes the object that we got and it copy, and you can change the parameter that you want in this class. In this case is, for example, the color, and I put a white color. All right, it feels much better. Probably
maybe it's the style, which is a more thicker style. Try headline 4 or headline 5. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. All right. Yeah, it's there is not the timing because we don't have time and the favorite button, but the design is really good, as I can say, as you can see, and so I think that's it.
Yeah, there are many things are only padding and maybe changing some boldness of some fonts, but I think that having seen all this stuff, if you understood the concepts, you will be able to do it maybe on your own. Anyway, in the repo, we are gonna share, there is the code with all these details set up.
Yeah, the important thing in Flutter is to know first the layout, how to place the layout and what layout is what layout to place. For example, a column or a row or flexible spacebar. This thing. Next, it's only a matter of tweaks. So this is our app.
That stuff, what you guys just did, obviously is really complicated, but let me say that they're gonna find it tremendously helpful once we put like all the bits with the nice coding parts and every single explanation. This stuff is really what it feels like to code a Flutter application with all the issues, with all the, like hard reload. So hopefully they will find it very useful, very interesting. They'll be able to refer to this material because, as Simone mentioned, while you, Davide, were gone, this kind of structure, this kind of implementation can be applied to a bunch of other projects, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So in any case, thank you so much, because this is not easy. As developers, going from something that looks super good, that has these different shapes, and now it has to be coded, it's never that simple. And you guys made it seem like it wasn't that complicated. And part of it definitely is because of Flutter. I love it personally. I know that Simone does too. We can tell that you two are really passionate about it.
Absolutely.
So hopefully more people. There we have Mari as well.
Hi.
Another core team member of ours. And as I was saying, Flutter is just, in my opinion, it can change the way that you approach app development. Because if you've never done it, it just simplifies the process a whole lot. If you have some background on JavaScript, the whole CSS burden of, now I have this code, but it doesn't look pretty. What do I do with it? Widgets and the way they are styled simplify the whole thing a lot. As you could tell, Davide and Lorenzo just tweaked a few things, and all of a sudden the screen looked completely different. One thing that I would like students to notice is that they didn't have the code ready, but they had the widgets separated. So they passed the widgets around, they injected them into the code, and boom, right away it worked. That's one of the nicest thing about Flutter.
Yeah, because in this way you can work in parallel with other people.
Yeah. The best setup is to put Android Studio on the left and the emulator on the right, so you can see instantaneously the code change with auto reload. Mm-hmm. It is really a useful feature of Flutter.
Super nice. Once again, thank you guys. Thank you, Tutored.
Thank you,
it's been an amazing series. Hopefully they will find it useful, both the UI, UX part with the signing and the implementation. So Mario, Simone, all of us want to thank you, obviously.
Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas to everyone. Bon Natale, Feliz Navidad, all these things. Because we're an international community. Sorry, we don't speak any more languages.
How do you say Happy Christmas in Dart?
In Dart. We can work on something during Christmas.
Yeah,
time.
Maybe during the next event we will say that.
But yeah, it's been super awesome. We're glad that so many students actually joined in right before Christmas, because it's busy time at schools with students finishing up a few projects, going home. Anyways, this is it. Hopefully we'll come back with more stuff right after the Christmas break. As I mentioned, a few minutes ago, we're going to have a DSC talk tomorrow. everyone here, because actually Mario will also be there coordinating everything behind the scenes. He helps us a lot with everything because we can't really, take care of all our profiles, and he does a great job with all that stuff. And
Thank you.
Checking everything on the chat, passing the questions. He set up the whole Discord server for us, so
oh, nice.
That's pretty nice. Anyway,
that's a wonderful community. So
we have about 1,000, actually over 1,000 students on our Telegram group. Our social media profiles keep growing ever since Mario joined in, and with the job that Simone did last year, we were able to get the ball rolling. So this year, unfortunately, coronavirus didn't let us do all these events in person. But thanks to coronavirus, we were able to gather a bunch of people on online sessions. Right. So we try to make the most out of it. So anyways, once again, everyone enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas, as I said. Thank you for being there.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.